Today we're going to be going over energy modeling, specifically energy modeling in Solesca. Before we go into how to energy model in Solesca, why it's important, what are the different facets of it, I want to go over energy modeling as a whole, right? So the energy model is what you get whenever you click on the simulate button. It's what your specific yield is, what produces the energy, what produces the shade losses, all those losses, as well as what produces that 8760 in the report. And the reason you do this is to get these as accurate a number as possible so you know what your revenues are going to be based off of your production values, right? Taking a step back, for modeling, there's really three pillars of the model. There's a model itself, so what engine is doing all these calculations. Are the assumptions that you feed to the model, right? So DC wiring loss, AC wiring loss, transmission factors, bifacial assumptions that you're feeding to the model, and then the layout itself. So that layout matters. So your rotor row spacing matters, your type matters, your fixed tilt, single axis tracker, your tilt matters, right? And those three pillars are what are fed to all together encompass this energy model. Now, we want at Solesca to provide you the best-in-class experience so that you can rapidly design, model, see what works, and then also have the ability to truly do a bankable model. So what makes a model bankable is that banks and working in conjunction with auditors such as independent engineer firms have said, all right, this project, I'm going to be able to give you money so you can construct it, build it, what have you, so that you can go through this process and continue to build these projects. Now, that bankable model, most design companies don't have a bankable model. SAM itself, even though we have had very few cases of using SAM to go through lending, it is not widely accepted. What's widely accepted in the industry is PV Syst and now up and coming Solar Farmer. So we've partnered with Solar Farmer to use their model, right, and provide that model in Solesca for you. So we have enabled you to use either the system advisory model for free unlimited amounts of times under our normal simulate button, and we've certified that through NREL. And now we have the ability for you as well to use a more robust, truly bankable model engine. That's the Solar Farmer engine that has already financed more than 2 gigawatts worth of projects and are on track to finance a terawatt, hopefully by the end of the year. So we can click on that. You're actually going to be able and are able now to model using that Solar Farmer model. However, we discussed that's one pillar of this energy modeling ecosystem. The other two pillars are the actual design and the assumption. So let's go into the design. We've made those 5 templates that you have access to, those generic templates. All those templates, besides the module and inverter, are truly real templates, right? We can stand by them. If you design a field with them, and as long as you do proper keepouts and do not model on crazy terrain, we think that you could actually build these as such in a truly constructible manner, be it rooftop, fixed tilt, single axis tracker, or canopy. Those templates are made to be the foundation from which you to grow upon. Now you can change those templates. We have those videos detailing how you do that to fit your specific racking and module and inverter needs. But those templates help give you that foundation. The other aspects of designing are going to be near shading. So if you have trees by the system, if you have roofs by the system, if you have anything that's going to shade throughout the day, the system, we've got the ability for you to place obstructions and trees so that that shading is taken into account, because we're in the solar business. Everything's based off of the sun. If panels are being shaded, then you're going to have a hit to your loss. You can see right here that the shading's 1.8. If I made this, say, 150 feet tall and I resimulate it, it's probably going to be closer to 3, right? Because we're taking into account this near shading object. Now, all models, 2D or 3D, are going to be taking into account the panel to panel near shading, but they don't know about this object. If they could or could not know about this object, we model that internally and send that to SAM and Solar Farmer so that you have those near shading objects taken into account as accurately as possible. And eventually we're going to be moving to allowing you to do 3D Solar Farmer when we launch 3D in 2026, so that you have terrain tracking, you have the near shading based off of terrain, adjacent hills, as well as truly 3D object detection all through the Solar Farmer model. That will be coming soon, so let's just go back to your layout. making sure that you have accurately placed all those obstructions, all those trees is going to be imperative because those are the inputs that you're feeding to the model. So even if you have a great model, PVSYST or DNV Solar Farmer, right? If you do not have a proper layout and you're properly accounting for trees or for buildings, then you're not going to have an accurate simulation. So that is really what encompasses, we're trying at Solesca to bring you the easiest way to design, the easiest way to do that second pillar, as well as the adjacent pillars. Likewise, in these design templates, you're going to have this advanced section, which has all of your losses, right? Those losses that we have are approved by DNV to be very reasonable losses that are quote unquote bankable losses, right? So if you use our loss assumptions, then you can rest assured that that third pillar, those assumptions, are truly accurate, right? If you deviate from these assumptions, then you will have either a more conservative or less conservative number for specific yield and for your energy model, but it will not be quote unquote Solesca approved to be using Solar Farmer's bankable model, using our bankable assumptions, and then using these truly as close to possible constructible layouts. And if you have those three things, then we consider the model to be bankable, right? And what that means is that you're going to be able to take this to DNV or some other independent engineer, and they will say, all right, we're, instead of being 4, 5, 10% off, which a lot of models that are not certified are, or a lot of models that are certified but aren't using the proper assumptions or aren't taking into consideration the proper near shading are, we're aiming for as close to 0% as possible. We believe with Solar Farmer, with our assumptions, with a proper layout, you're going to be within 1%, which is extremely, extremely close. So these three pillars really constitute what you're seeing from this simulate button. And it's not just for Solar Farmer. These assumptions are also fed into SAM. So a lot of times we're experiencing on Solesca's side clients coming to us saying, hey, this is different than helioscope. This is different than PV watts. This is different than some other energy model. And inevitably we'll look into this and it's one of three things. It's either PV watts doesn't model the layout, so you don't have any near shading, you don't have any of those losses, you don't have any of the object losses. Or you have completely crazy assumptions that are not close to our certified assumptions. So those assumptions matter. If you change all of these assumptions to 0, you're going to have a system that performs probably 10% more than our system because we're actually accurately modeling these assumptions, right? Likewise, if you have a model that's not that good as your backbone, and even if you have the assumptions and the field right, you could still see major discrepancies. So we're here at Solesca bringing you that trifecta. I'd highly recommend if you're coming to us saying, well, why are your numbers different than Helioscope's numbers or different than name whoever else you've used? Look into the assumptions, look into what you have as our baseline assumptions. A lot of it comes from the snow and soiling losses. Most people just do 2%. We actually calculate accurate snow and soiling losses for you based off of the location, right? It also can be all of these extra losses that we have, as I said, approved by DNV Solar Farmer team to be as accurate as possible and as fair as possible. We're not trying to be too conservative. We're not trying to be less conservative. We're trying to be right on the money with these assumptions, right? So most of the time that discrepancy is either going to be there or in the near shading. So we allow you to do those object obstructions. We allow you to do those trees. If you get that right, you're going to have extra losses than if using, say, PV watts, which does not incorporate any of that. So those are the three pillars, right? You've got the model, which is SAM or the bankable DNV Solar Farmer. You have the layout itself, which is up to you to make as best as you can. We provide those templates and then you can deviate from them. And then you also have the assumptions, and we provided those bankable assumptions for you to use, and then you can deviate from them at your peril, right? Lastly, we have the weather file. Now we use NSRDB, that's the free open source weather file. That is super good enough. If you'd like to use a more bankable model, you can use DNV Solcast, you can use Solar Anywhere, you can use a litany, or you can even upload your own, which you think are better than the ones that we're automatically fetching for you. So that is a huge part of it. The albedo, we typically set to weather file or 0.2 just because that is also, like, these are parts of the assumptions and parts of those inputs, that second and third pillar, that really affect the model. If you take a weather file from Alaska and you put it here, which is I think in Arizona, you're going to have a completely different inputs and completely wrong model. So our aim for you is to provide the ability to have all three pillars really well done, so that when you go to financing, when you go to building, and then your asset management team owns this or whoever owns it later down the line, they have a really good idea, best in class idea of what it actually is supposed to be producing. This concludes our overview of energy modeling. If you have any questions, please email us or click on the concierge message and we'll get back to you.